Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back to my video. This is my final exam. As usually, I will introduce myself first. My name is Siti Sopianti, and I have several questions given by my lecturer, and so I have to answer that several questions. The questions are: the first is distinguish and make summary about accounting for costs, direct costs, and indirect costs. The second one, explain direct and indirect costs and provide a case related. The third, analyze report on investment in stock market. The fourth, comprehend a reading passage and prepare a presentation script about the roles of accountant in globalization era. The last, conduct an academic presentation about the roles of accountant in globalization era. So the answer is the first. I will explain about direct costs and indirect costs. Direct costs refer to the costs associated with producing of goods and can be tracked to a specific object. Direct cost is a cost that can be charged directly to a cost object or product. The type of direct costs. The first is material costs. Material costs are costs that include the purchase of material and material that are calculated by unit price. The second one is labor wage costs. Labor wage costs, namely the payment of workers' wage that are calculated against unit items and usually already have a standard unit price. The third, equipment costs. The cost of equipment is the cost of equipment carry out construction of work. The next is indirect costs. Indirect cost is a cost that cannot be attributed to and charged directly to the unit produced. This makes indirect costs considered business expense. The type of indirect costs. The first is unforeseen expense. Incidental costs are costs that are prepared for events that may or may not occur. Next is overhead costs, namely additional costs that are not directly related to ongoing project process, but must still be included in the budget in order for the project to run well. The next is field overhead, related to field personnel costs, warehouse, field office, lighting, in transportation, building permits, quality control costs, and others. The last is office overhead, relating to the cost of renting office facilities, employee salary, business permits, bank reference, and others. For the example, when I have clothing business and handmade, so I directly choose the material and made it by handmade, and I also selling that product. So the first, I have to buy sewing machine, I have to buy clothing materials, and I have to buy yarn, and I also have to pay off labor or workers, and I also have to rent the rooms for activity production. So the cost that I have to pay or buy for sewing machine, yarn, material clothing, and labor wage, it can be directly related to ongoing production, so it will classify to direct costs. Meanwhile, when I have to rent for rooms for administrative activities such as accounting or marketing or anything unrelated to ongoing production, it will classify to indirect costs. Indirect cost is not direct related, so such as salaries and administrative expense it will classify indirect cost. So the difference is direct cost related to production cost, and indirect cost is not related to production cost but support the production cost, like rent of building for accounting, marketing, and administrative, salaries and administrative expense. It will charge to indirect costs. Next is analyst report on investment in stock market. Stock market analysts and investors may look at a variety of factors to indicate a stock probable future's direction, up or down in price. Here's rundown on some of the most commonly viewed variables for stock analysis. There is a stock market capitalization, or market cap, is the total value of all the outstanding shares of the stock. A higher market capitalization usually indicates a company that is more well established and financially sound. The next is publicly traded companies are required by exchange regulatory bodies to regularly provide earning report. This report issued quarterly or annually are carefully watched by market analysts as a good indicator of how well company's business is doing. Among the key factors analyzed from earning report are the company's earning per share, or EPS, which reflects the company's profit as divided among all of its standing share of stock. The next is analysts and investors also frequently examine a number of financial ratios that are intended to indicate the financial stability, profitability, and growth potential of a publicly traded company. The following are a view of the key financial ratio that investors and analysts consider. The first is price to earning ratio. This ratio are calculated to price of share which compare with incomes of company. The next is debt equity ratio. This ratio is reflect how much companies financing by debt. The next is return on equity ratio. This ratio is reflect how efficient company for using their equity to generate their profit. The next is profit margin. Profit margin shows the profit from the operation as a percentage of profit from their income. Two basic approach to stock market investing. The first one is value investor. Typically invest in well-established companies that have shown steady profitability over a long period of time and may offer regular dividend income. Value investing is more focused on avoiding risk than growth investing. It's also value investors do seek to buy stock when they consider the stock price to be an undervalued bargain. The second is growth investor. Seek out companies with exceptionally high growth potential, hoping to realize maximum appreciation in share price. They are usually less concerned with dividend income and are more willing to risk investing in relatively young companies. Technology stock, because of their high growth potential, are often favored by growth investors. So the difference between value investor and growth investor: value investor is avoiding risk than growth investing, and growth investor usually invest with higher risk. So they will see a potential company growth and usually less concerned with dividend income. Usually this investor invest to startup company with have a potential growth higher and favored by growth investor. And the next question for accountant in globalization era. Role of accountant in globalization era. International accounting is complex because its nature being linked to the globalization movement that is sweeping all economic. However, all the globalization is affecting in accounting craft, standard, management, audit, and tax. The roles of the accountant in the era of the globalization is divided into main sections. The first is definition of management accounting and its features. The second is the globalization and its features. The third is focus on the role of accountant. The fourth, seek public perception towards the accountant. Management accountant play an important role in creating and adding value to the organization by managing resource, activities, and people to fulfill the organization object. The era of the globalization has given birth a transformed management. Accountant position and metamorphosis still continues. New roles and new challenges are facing management accounting. Accounting has evolved to its present status as a profession through meeting and needs for measuring economic and financial activity and communicating this is information to the society. Society is now demanding environmental information from organization. Accountant must communicate the needed ecological information to interested parties in order to continue receive professional support from society. So in this era, especially in globalization era, accountant is not only a profession, but accountant has a good communication also, because society now need the information through or from the accountant about the company. So this is the globalization era, which I know that millennials start to invest to stock market. This is the accountants necessary, because accountant has communicate, has giving information about the company. It's not only about financial statement, but also about the corporate social responsibility, going concern of company, which communicate in a good way. So society giving and more trusted to the company, because the information that given by the accountant. So accountant is not only calculate and report, but also have to measuring of economic. So that's the final exam from me about this for this subject, English for accounting. That's all from me. I hope this video will giving benefits for people who view, also for me. And thank you for my lecture, for teaching me. Thank you for the lecture for teaching this subject. I hope you are stay healthy and keep fighting. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.